bueno, a Pedri, yo soy un entrenador al que le gustan los buenos futbolistas y él es un gran futbolista y me encanta su estado de forma actual precisamente porque él está mostrando esta fase ofensiva que ya ha mostrado durante tiempo, pero lo que me gusta de él es cómo es capaz de, en la faceta defensiva, abarcar terreno, hacer coberturas. A nivel emocional y a nivel enérgico se le ve que está conectadísimo y eso contagia al resto. Bueno, una gozada verle jugar, salvo hoy.
The young kid, who now runs Barcelona's midfield, was once rejected by Real Madrid. For many, that could have been the end of the dream, but for Pedri, it was just fuel to prove them wrong. So how did he go from being overlooked to becoming one of the best young midfielders in the world? And what makes him so special today? Let's talk about that. Before he was running the show at Camp Nou, Pedri was just a football-obsessed kid growing up in Tegeste, a small town in Tenerife. And when I say obsessed, I mean it. This guy had a football glued to his feet since birth. His family was also crazy about football. His grandfather was so passionate about the sport that he helped found a Barcelona fan club in their town. Yeah, talk about foreshadowing. Little did they know that one day that boy would be wearing the Barca shirt. Pedri started playing for the local club, UD Tegeste, where he was that kid who made everything look way too easy. You know the type, the one who dribbles past everyone like it's a video game on rookie mode. Eventually, he moved to Juventud Laguna, where things started getting serious. Even as a kid, Pedri wasn't just about fancy dribbles or showing off. He played with intelligence way beyond his years, always making the right pass and always knowing where to be. Scouts were taking notice, and before long, the big clubs came knocking. And that's when Real Madrid called. It was supposed to be his big break. But life happened. You know how every great player has that one moment of rejection that ends up fueling their success? Well, this was Pedri's. He gets an invite to trial with Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in the world. This is the kind of opportunity kids dream of. But when he gets there, Madrid hits him with the most unexpected problem: snow. Yeah, snow in Madrid completely shut down training for the first couple of days. Talk about bad timing. When he finally did get on the pitch, it wasn't exactly the dream scenario. He barely got to train with the first team and was sent to practice with the B team. Then came the gut punch. After just 3 days, Madrid told him he wasn't good enough and that they were going to pass on signing him. You travel from Tenerife, barely get a chance to prove yourself, and then they just brush you off? Pedri himself admitted that at first it stung. I mean, who likes being rejected? But instead of letting it crush him, he used it as motivation. He decided, alright, if they don't want me, I'll just work even harder and prove them wrong. And man, did he ever. 2 years later, Barcelona came knocking, and Pedri grabbed the opportunity with both hands. When asked if he ever met the guy who rejected him in Madrid, Pedri laughed and said, I don't remember who he was. I'll just tell him that I'm enjoying myself in Barcelona now. That's gotta hurt, right? Madrid had Pedri in their hands and let him slip through. And now, he's one of the most important players in the biggest rival squad. Talk about football karma. Before Pedri made it to Barcelona, he had to prove himself somewhere else first, and that somewhere was Las Palmas. After Real Madrid's rejection, Pedri went back to the Canary Islands and joined Las Palmas youth setup in 2018. Now, most 15-year-olds are just trying to survive school, but Pedri? He was out there working his way up the football ladder. And it didn't take long for people to realize the kid was special. By the time he was 16, Las Palmas manager Pepe Mel had seen enough. He wasn't going to let this talent sit in the academy. He promoted Pedri straight to the first team and handed him a 4-year professional contract. Just imagine that. One moment you're playing youth football, and the next you're lining up with grown men in a professional league. Then came his debut on August 18th, 2019. Pedri, at just 16 years old, started against Huesca in Spain's Segunda Division. Now, it wasn't a dream start. Las Palmas lost 1-0, but you could already see the flashes of brilliance. This wasn't just some kid trying to keep up. He looked like he belonged at this level. And then, exactly a month later, he made history. September 19th, 2019, Las Palmas vs Sporting Gijon. The game was deadlocked, with nothing separating the teams, until Pedri stepped up. He scored the only goal of the match, securing the win for Las Palmas, and in the process became the youngest goalscorer in the club's history, at just 16 years, 9 months, and 23 days old. At this point, scouts all over Spain were taking notes. They saw a teenager who wasn't just talented, but who played like a veteran, calm on the ball, vision beyond his years, and a work rate that never stopped. And one club in particular couldn't take their eyes off him. That club? Barcelona. You see, Pedri had gone from Real Madrid reject to Las Palmas wonder kid. And when you start bossing games at 16, the big clubs start calling. Now here's the crazy part. Barca signed him before he even turned 17. Yet they saw enough talent in him at Las Palmas and said, "We're locking this kid down." In September 2019, they agreed to sign him for just €5 million, which, looking back, might be one of the biggest bargains in football history. But they didn't throw him straight into the deep end just yet. They let him stay at Las Palmas for another season to get more experience. Then came 2020, and Pedri finally arrived in Barcelona. And let's be real, most 17-year-olds joining a club this massive would be shaking in their boots. But Pedri? Nah, this guy walked in like he'd been playing at Camp Nou his whole life. At first, people thought he'd be sent to Barca B to develop more, but Ronald Koeman, the manager at the time, saw something different. He gave Pedri his chance in the first team, and the kid grabbed it with both hands. September 27th, 2020, Pedri made his debut, replacing Philippe Coutinho in a 4-0 win against Villarreal. 3 weeks later, he was already starting games, showing everyone he belonged. Then came his Champions League debut on October 20th, and guess what? He scored his first goal for Barca that night in a 5-0 win against Ferencváros. 1 minute you're playing in the Segunda Division, and the next you're scoring on a Champions League night at the Camp Nou. That's Pedri for you. He kept making history, scoring his first La Liga goal against Real Betis in November, becoming a regular starter, and proving he wasn't just a promising youngster, but one of Barcelona's key players. And this was still his first season. By 2021, Pedri wasn't just a Barca star, he was one of the most exciting young players in Europe. He played a huge role in helping Barcelona win the Copa del Rey, even scoring a crucial goal against Athletic Bilbao in January. By May, he'd already made 50 appearances for the club, at 18 years old. Only Bojan Krkić had done it at a younger age. His performances were so good that Barcelona wasted no time securing his future. In October 2021, he signed a new contract with a €1 billion release clause. Yes, that's billion with a B. That's how much Barca believed in him. And then came the awards. Pedri was crowned Golden Boy in 2021, recognized as the best young player in Europe, and also won the Copa Trophy, given to the best under-21 player in world football. At this point, he wasn't just Barcelona's future, he was football's future. But of course, football isn't always a fairy tale. Injuries started creeping in, and in April 2022, he picked up a hamstring injury in a Europa League match against Frankfurt. That ruled him out for the rest of the season, and Barcelona felt his absence badly. Despite the setbacks, Pedri came back stronger. In January 2023, he played his 100th game for Barcelona, scoring the winner against Girona. By the end of the season, he had something new to add to his trophy collection: his first La Liga title under Xavi. Fast forward to 2024, and Pedri was still delivering big moments. His assist for Rafinha against PSG in the Champions League quarter-finals showed his class. Unfortunately, Barca crashed out in the second leg, but Pedri's influence on the team was undeniable. Before we continue the video, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and now back to the video. Then came 2024-25, and with a new manager, Hansi Flick, Pedri focused on improving his fitness. And guess what? It worked. He stayed largely injury-free and started the season in top form. He played a key role in Barcelona's crazy 5-4 win against Benfica in the Champions League, assisting Eric Garcia in the equalizer. And then, on January 30th, 2025, Pedri sealed his commitment to Barcelona by signing a new contract until 2030. He went from being rejected by Real Madrid to becoming one of Barcelona's most important players. Pedri's journey is incredible. And at just 22 years old, he's got a whole career ahead of him. Madrid may not have wanted him back then, but Barcelona is happy they took that chance. And looking at how things have turned out, I bet Pedri wouldn't have it any other way. He didn't only show out in Barcelona, he did it in Spain generally. In 2021, when the kid had just turned 18, Spain was preparing for the Euros 2020, which, thanks to you-know-what, was played in 2021. Now, normally, a teenager making his national team debut would get a couple of minutes here and there, just to get a feel for things, right? No, Luis Enrique had other ideas. He threw Pedri straight into the deep end and made him a starter. And Pedri? He didn't just survive, he thrived. The guy played like he'd been running Spain's midfield for years. He was bossing games, controlling possession, and making everything look too easy. By the end of the tournament, he'd played more minutes than anyone else in the Spain squad. And not just that, he became the youngest player ever to start in a European Championship semi-final. Spain reached the semi-finals against Italy, and even though they lost on penalties, Pedri had already done enough to make the whole football world stand up and take notice. He was later named Young Player of the Tournament, and if that wasn't impressive enough, he'd completed 65 out of 66 passes in that semi-final against one of the best Italian midfields in years. That's not normal, that's alien-level midfield control. Now, most players would take a well-earned break after carrying their national team in a major tournament, right? But nah, Pedri isn't like most players. Just days after the Euros ended, he was on a plane to Tokyo for the 2020 Olympics. And if you thought Spain would ease him in, think again. Pedri played every match. Once again, he was one of Spain's best players, helping them reach the Olympic final against Brazil. And although Spain lost in extra time, Pedri played 73 games in the 2020-21 season, a ridiculous number. To put that into perspective, that's more matches in one season than some players play in two. But he didn't stop there. In 2020, Pedri was no longer just a young prospect. He was the main man in Spain's midfield. He headed to the Qatar World Cup as one of Spain's key players, and once again, Luis Enrique put all his trust in him. Spain started the tournament with a 7-0 demolition of Costa Rica, where Pedri showed why he's one of the best young midfielders in the world. But the tournament didn't go as planned. Spain got knocked out in the round of 16 by Morocco on penalties. It was disappointing, but if there was one positive, it was that Pedri had cemented himself as the heartbeat of the Spanish national team. All this time, Pedri was putting in a show, but he was not getting rewarded with a trophy. Not until Euro 2024. By the time Euro 2024 rolled around, Pedri was no longer the new kid on the block. He was a seasoned international. Spain came into the tournament as one of the favourites, with a new generation of talent coming through. Players like Lamine Yamal and Neco Williams, they look seriously dangerous. Pedri, now 22 years old, was playing alongside Rodri in midfield, and the duo was running the show. Spain stormed through the group stage. Pedri was pulling the strings like a puppet master, and it looked like they were on course for something special. But then came the quarter-finals against Germany, and heartbreak struck. Just 8 minutes into the match, Pedri took a heavy challenge from Toni Kroos and had to be subbed off. It was devastating, not just for Spain, but for Pedri himself, because this was supposed to be his tournament. Without him, Spain still managed to grind out a win in extra time, but losing their main playmaker hurt them badly. Spain eventually went on to win the whole tournament, but for Pedri it was bittersweet. He was happy for the team, of course, but you could tell he felt like he had unfinished business. He'd missed out on the chance to truly put his stamp on the tournament, and that had to sting. But this was the first time Pedri was rewarded after a beautiful performance. And this win announced him so well in Spain, where Real Madrid club resides. This begs the question, did Real Madrid regret not signing him? Well, I'll leave that to you in the comments section.